don't know about you. Who else could it be but your man Louie? Yeah.
It's nothing. I mean, I think we just have to stay humble, you know, and we got to make sure we know how to handle success and all those things, so we can't change who we are.
That'll cool your ass.
Who else could it be? For me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to Monday Night Football Overtime. Steelers, Bucs, Monday Night Football, Fitz magic at its best. In the first half, it was more like Fitz tragic, as Ryan Fitzpatrick reverted to what I like to call good old fitty-fitty, which is exactly what he was tonight. Fitty-fitty. 3 touchdowns, but 3 interceptions, 1 to the crib, and you fall just short. Now, this could have gotten out of control. This could have been a massacre, and it looked like it was well on its way to being exactly that in the first half. But I must say, Ryan Fitzpatrick, a.k.a. Fitty Fitty, did turn it up in the second half and give the Buccaneers a fighting chance. Gave them an opportunity to cut this thing to within 1 score, and they actually got the football back with a chance to win the game. And on that final possession that they possessed the football, he tried to throw not 1, not 2, but 3 INTs on that last possession in true fitty-fitty fashion. But the Steelers wanted no parts of a 4th interception on the night. They were cool with just getting the football back and ramming it down that Buccaneers defense throat. However, entertaining game. The Bucs are here to stay for now. Again, their schedule, pretty soft. You saw the teams coming up on that schedule. They can handle the Bears next week in Chicago. However, you start to put pressure on Ryan Fitzpatrick, good old fitty-fitty, as we've seen Khalil Mack do this year. Things could get really ugly in the Windy City. So, we'll find out if Midway Mack and the rest of those boys are ready to put pressure on fitty-fitty and this Buccaneers offense. But this was an entertaining game. The Steelers had to have it. This was not optional. You see their schedule? It doesn't get any easier. Okay, Ravens on Sunday Night Football next week. The Falcons after that. And then the Bengals after that. It does not get any easier for these Pittsburgh Steelers. So this was a must-win tonight. You lose this game, you drop to 0-1-2 on the season, and for all intents and purposes, you are fighting for your collective lives with all the turmoil that is swirling around the Steelers organization and Mike Tomlin, and has he lost control of this team? You lose this game tonight. You drop to 0-1-2, and you can forget about it. Because I'm telling you right now, I've already said this, and I'm sticking steadfast to what I've said all along. The AFC North is going to be the best division in football this year. I did not stutter. The Browns will be markedly better. We saw what they could be capable of with Baker Mayfield at quarterback. I told you the Bengals are going to be a damn good football team, and I think they have a great shot at winning the division this year. Same could be said for the Ravens. Both of those teams have gotten off to great 2-1 starts. The Steelers are struggling, but they may have righted the ship tonight. It's funny. We talked about seeing the old dreaded 1-1-1 and how that was the first time we saw it on Thursday night with the Browns. Well, we've seen it now 4 times. The Steelers are 1-1-1. The Vikings are 1-1-1. The Packers are 1-1-1. And the Browns are 1-1-1. Isn't that crazy? But again, the Steelers had to have it tonight, and they got it. Big performance by Ben. Only 8 incompletions. He was extremely efficient with the football tonight. Had 1 mistake early in the ball game, but other than that, he toasted, roasted, and dissected this Buccaneers defense all night long, especially on the off-schedule plays, as we know Ben Roethlisberger is very apt to do. But it was nice to see the run game come alive when they needed it, because they had no semblance of a run game for much of this football game. As a matter of fact, going into those final 2 possessions, which is where the bulk of James Conner's yards on the ground came, I think they had 8 rushing yards on the night before Conner exploded on the final 2 possessions of the game to give the Steelers an opportunity to ice and salt this game away. So everyone stepped up that the Steelers needed to step up in the game. How about the stiff arm by Vance McDonald? Get your ass off of me. That's what that stiff arm said to me. It was a 2-piece combo too. Get your ass off of me. And if I was Chris Conte, I would have a knee injury, ankle injury, concussion, something. I would have that too. I would get ghost as well. So I don't blame him for not being around for the remainder of the game. He'll never live that stiff arm down. Damn, homie. Just 2 plays ago, you was the man, homie. The f happened to you? Caught a 2-piece, man. It happens. No, it doesn't happen, but it happened tonight. And so even if they're just talking about the Steelers, they don't have to even be talking about Vance McDonald in general. They could just be talking about the Steelers, and the highlight package is probably going to include that vicious, flavor-delicious, poetic scripture stiff arm. God damn. Chris Conte will never live that down. That will go in infamy as one of the most grotesque and brutal stiff arms we've ever seen. Right up there with the AD hip check of the Cleveland Brown defender on the sideline, where he literally hip tossed him, get your ass off me, and then proceeded to rev back up the engine and run for a touchdown. It's right up there with that one. But I digress. This was a great football game. Looked like it was going to hell in a handbasket at halftime when Fitty was doing his thing, boy. And then all of a sudden, the Steelers couldn't get out of their own way. How many penalty flags? Look, this penalty epidemic, this shit is getting out of control. I'm serious. Like, I'm the most loyal NFL fan you'll find. There's not many things that will turn me off to the league, but this shit is getting really, really annoying. Okay, this right here is getting out of control. We saw 5 penalty flags tonight for roughing the passer. Luckily enough, they picked the last one up. So a total of 4 on the night were actually called and accepted. The Steelers themselves had 12 penalties accepted against them in this game. They lead the league in penalties this season. And the Buccaneers had about a good 7 or 8 themselves. This reminded me, and it was eerily similar to the Thursday night game to kick off the season, where there was just flags galore. It was raining yellow, similar to that tonight. But I digress. The play on the field was quality from both teams, especially in the second half when the Buccaneers were able to pick things up. And it's a shame that Deshaun Jackson runs back a punt that would have given you, I believe, the lead at that point, if I'm not mistaken. I think it either would have given you the lead or it would have given you a chance to cut it to 3, which you ultimately went down and did anyway with the Mike Evans. Mikey! He was exceptional tonight, touchdown, but just too many mistakes. 4 turnovers. You got the fumble by Chris Godwin. You got the 3 INTs by Fitty. You're asking for a loss is what you're doing. You can't make those types of mistakes against a desperate Pittsburgh Steelers football team and expect to win. Great pick by Justin Evans, early in the ball game to get the scoring started as he set up the first touchdown of the game by the Buccaneers. But after that, it was all downhill for them in the first half of this game. If not for a couple of, and I thought that some missed opportunities by Chris Boswell, who is normally one of the most sure-footed kickers in the league, leaving points out on the field. He left 4 points out there in a game that they ultimately won by 3. Had this game gotten to where the Bucs could score 1 more touchdown, those 4 points would have been the difference between this game being tied and the Buccaneers winning. So Chris Boswell better get his shit together. And normally he's a good kicker, so this was an anomaly tonight. But nonetheless, he missed an extra point and he missed a field goal. And I thought the field goal miss was a backbreaker at the time because the Bucs went down, had a long drive, ate up about 7 minutes of the third quarter clock, and they only got a field goal. And the Steelers had a chance to match the field goal And it's just like basketball. If you're trying to make a comeback and you're down 18, you can't trade baskets with the other team. If the Steelers were to go down and get that field goal back, which they pretty much did and Boswell missed, then it's like you're not gaining any ground and you ate up basically the entire third quarter to still be at the same deficit you were at halftime. Instead, he misses, great field position. Now the crowd is involved. Now you feel like, why can't we make this a ball game? And voila, all of a sudden, all the momentum swings in the favor of the Buccaneers. Fitzpatrick gets hot. He starts to believe. The Bucs start to believe. And all of a sudden, we have a ball game on our hands. And this thing got tight late. It got tight late. The Bucs had every opportunity to steal this game from the Pittsburgh Steelers. But it just wasn't meant to be tonight. The Steelers, like I said, they needed it more than the Buccaneers did. And they go out and they find a way to get it 30-27 to even their record up across the board at 1-1-1 on the season. They've got a lot of work to do, the Steelers. That defense is a sieve. And if they don't make the postseason, if they don't win the AFC North this year, if they don't right this ship, it will be because of that defense. It won't be because of the offense. We've seen that already this year. Even in the games that they've lost or tied this year, the offense has performed. Yes, Ben had 6 turnovers in that first game of the season versus the Browns. It was a wet, nasty day. No excuses. You can't turn it over 6 times. You're not even supposed to tie a game in which you turn it over 6 times. The defense did bail them out in that game. However, the following week against Kansas City, before you looked up and you even knew what the hell was going on, the Chiefs already had 30-some-odd points in Pittsburgh, which is crazy to think. But that's what the Chiefs are on right now. And that defense had no answer for what the Kansas City Chiefs were doing. And they had no answer for what the Bucs were doing in the second half of this game. And their answer really was, let's just blitz the draws off of Fitzpatrick and see if we can't get him to make a mistake. And in the first half, it worked to perfection. In the second half, the Buccaneers did a much better job. And you heard their coach, Dirk Cutter, say at halftime, look, a lot of the issues we had in the first half, they're correctable. Guys just aren't handling their assignments. And if we just pick up these, because it's not like the Steelers were coming with 6 or 7 and coming with a 0 blitz. They were coming with 4 and 5 and making it seem like it was a bunch of guys coming, or overload a side or fake a blitz one way and come with it on the opposite side. And the protection was just being confused in the first half and guys weren't doing their jobs. They cleaned that up in the second half. Fitzpatrick had time, and you saw what he was able to do when he had time. So kudos to the Buccaneers for making halftime adjustments, figuring it out, and getting into an offensive rhythm, something they lacked in the first half of this game. But again, I get back to the Steelers. If they don't clean up these defensive liabilities, and I don't know how you fix this, because you're not going to find players overnight, and you're not just going to get better on defense overnight. You are what you are on defense. And I look at this Steelers football team, and while I think the secondary is somewhat suspect, I don't think they're the worst in the league. I don't think they're terrible to the point where they can't get better. I think where the real problem lies is at the linebacker position. I just don't see the athleticism there. And it's been that way since you lost Ryan Shazier. You've never really recovered from that injury. There just isn't enough athleticism at the linebacker position. I look at John Bostic. John Bostic is not a great athlete. You know, I look at Vince Williams. He's a solid athlete. But these guys don't move the needle one way or the other. And when you look at this Steelers defense, they're always predicated on their linebackers being able to be athletic and make plays, run in space, run in chase, drop into coverage, and blitz, and do all of the things that Steelers linebackers have been known to do over the years. And I just don't see that with this group. And then it puts extra pressure on your defensive line to try to create pressure. And now all of a sudden, guys aren't getting there. And now you feel like you have to blitz. You feel like you are in a position where it's a mandatory situation or you won't get pressure. And you don't want to leave that secondary that I feel is a little sketchy out to dry. So there's a dilemma in Pittsburgh right now defensively. And I don't know if you can score 35 every week and out-duel teams. I just don't know if that's feasible. We saw you weren't able to do it in week 2 versus the Chiefs. That's not a situation you want to find yourself in, week out. You were able to get away with it tonight, because of some mistakes by the opposition. 4 turnovers helped you win this game. But against teams that are going to take better care of the football, I don't know if you can get away with your defense being as shoddy as it is right now. So I'm nervous because Mike Tomlin is my guy. He's from the 757. I love Mike Tomlin. If the Steelers were to be irrational and cut ties with him, the man would have a job immediately. Okay, he's a hell of a coach. But right now, that roster, I don't know if it's good enough for the Steelers to live up to where they've been over the last 5 years, which is a legit Super Bowl contending football team. And again, I've already told you, without L.Bell, they are not a Super Bowl contender. They're just a really good football team. There's a big difference between the two. And so without L.Bell, I just don't know if the Steelers have enough to get it done on the offensive side of the football. We already know the defense probably isn't good enough. As far as the Bucs are concerned, I'll go ahead and issue the apology now that I owe them, because when I gave my season predictions, there were 2 teams that I looked at and I really thought they're gonna be bad this year, like really bad. Like there were like 4 or 5 teams that I gave 2 or 3 or 4 wins to, but most of those teams I'm like, they're gonna win more games. You know, the Jets, I said they're going to win more. I only could give them 2, but I'm like, the Jets are going to win more than 2 games. They're going to win 5 or 6 games. You know, there were teams that I looked at and I said, I got this team being pretty bad, but they're going to be much better than I think they're going to be record-wise. The 2 teams that I didn't think were going to be any good record-wise was Tampa Bay and Buffalo. Those are the 2 teams I'm like, there is no way these teams are going to be good this year. I was wrong. The Bucs already have exceeded my expectations because they have 2 wins already. And I didn't think that would be possible. Not at this juncture of the season. I told you that I thought that Dirk Cutter was going to get fired before they got to their bye week. He was going to be one of those bye week casualties. Dead man walking. Well, right now he's surviving. And he's thriving. But shit can change very quickly. Okay? All it takes is one. You lost that first game. Some of that magic that you were talking about, that shit is gone. All right, you lost a little bit of your luster tonight. Now you go to Chicago next week, and if you don't beat the Bears, all of a sudden, everything you built up, all the goodwill done in the first 2 weeks, shit is dead. Dead, I tell you. Okay? So you have to win next week. You've got to beat the Bears. And if you don't, then guess what happens? Then the Jameis Winston questions start to arise. Now we start looking at this football team and asking, how good are you really? Because we know that's a tough division. We saw the war between the Saints and the Falcons yesterday. The Panthers, I told you, and even Panthers fans didn't believe. They said, hey, we don't perform well on even years. Okay? I said, I don't want to hear that shit. This is going to be a good division. I look at the Panthers. If they stay healthy, they're dangerous. I look at the Falcons. They're already banged up. Still dangerous. I look at the Saints, and I didn't think this was going to be a good year for the Saints. They're scary. So you don't have the same leeway as, say, a Green Bay or a Minnesota or a Detroit, where you could afford to drop a game or 2 and look up at the rest of the division. Hell, even the AFC East, where the Dolphins are 3-0 and everybody else is 1-2, and say, hey, I could drop 1 or 2 and still be in the mix. You mess around and lose 2 straight, and you might mess around and look, and everybody in the division is passing you by. So you got to remember, you're still the bottom feeder of the NFC South Division. Despite going to New Orleans and doing what you did, still nobody in the division respects you. Carolina's not afraid of you. Atlanta isn't afraid of you. And I know you're not afraid of them, nor should you be. That's why it's family business. But look at your record in the division last year. Look at your record in the division the year before that. It's the reason why you can't get over the hump. It's the reason why 9-7 has been your ceiling, and the floor has been 4-12, 5-11, because you don't get enough done in the division. Well, you've gotten off to a great start this year with a win on the road, which feels great because you beat the Saints, even though it was the last game of the season. You still beat the Saints in Tampa last year. You could easily sweep them this year because you got the hardest part done. But Atlanta has always been tough for you. Carolina, unless Cam Newton gets hurt, and you know, it just seems to always happen that way. When the Tampa Bay game shows up on the schedule, Cam Newton gets in a car accident or Cam Newton gets hit and he can't play. And you get the backup Derek Anderson. He's gone now. So in any event, if you're able to avoid Cam Newton, you got a shot. If you can't avoid Cam Newton, you don't have a chance to beat the Panthers. So I said all of that to say this. I'm sorry. Okay, I underestimated what you could do with Fitty at quarterback. I saw the talent on the team. I knew about the talent on the offense. You know, that team is loaded. That's why I felt like if Jameis Winston could just stay out of trouble, he's such a good quarterback. Yeah, he makes mistakes. He does dumb things, but it happens. That level of talent that you have in Tampa Bay, scary. The tight end position is dumb with Brate and O.J. Howard. The receiver position is ridiculous. Just an abundance of riches. You go 4 deep, easy at receiver with Mikey and Djax and Humphreys and Godwin. You go 4 deep, easy. So the only thing that I think you're missing is a real difference-making back. Hey, don't talk me to death about Peyton Barber. He's nice, but he's not real. That's why you drafted Ronald Jones in the 2nd round. The man can't even get activated. I saw an undrafted rookie from Duke on the field tonight. What the hell is going on with that situation? That's what I want to know. Is there an injury that I don't know about? Anyway, I digress. The offense is loaded. If you can protect the quarterback, there is something here. But I still don't know about your defense. Still don't know about your secondary. The pass rush was okay at times tonight, but I still think it's lagging. I don't think your pass rush scares anyone. Love your linebackers. Always have. Probably always will. But there's still issues with your football team. You gave up a ton of points to New Orleans. You gave up a ton of points to the Steelers this week. That's what you're doing. That's your MO. If you go up against a team that 8 incompletions, when Drew Brees shredded you in week 1, I think he had like 6 or 7 incompletions. Like, teams are completing 80% of the balls against you. Like, what the hell is going on out there? The only game that you looked half decent on defense was against the Eagles, and they had nobody on offense. Their entire offense is hurt. And oh, by the way, they had Nicholas Foles at quarterback. That always helps too. Bottom line is, you go, and that's why next week is so important, because the Bears don't scare anybody on offense. The Bears don't scare anybody. You should be able to go in there and control the pace of that game. Get them off the field. They almost lost to Arizona. But if Khalil Mack does what we've seen him do this year, Irrepossible. Shit could get real ugly for you next week in Chicago. That's all I'm trying to say. But again, let me reiterate. I apologize. As a wise woman once told me, I apologize. Really, I do. Oh, believe me, I do. I apologize. Oh, honest and true. Because I know I was wrong. That's why I sing you this song. Yeah, I know I was wrong. I apologize. What y'all know about that? Y'all don't know about that. In any event, I'm sorry. I apologize. Now, what you going to do with this 2-1 start? That's what I want to know. I'm anxious to see. Because the old Buccaneers team, they would have folded like a cheap lawn chair tonight. This one would have been 43-17. You fought your ass off and you almost made an improbable comeback, which tells me that this isn't your normal Buccaneers football team. This isn't your uncle's Bucs. This is more like your dad's Bucs. If that makes any sense. So your uncle's a little younger than your dad. Get that? So I think this team has a shot to be a player in the NFC this year. But how they navigate through this Jameis Winston situation, because that was half of the telecast tonight. What are the Bucs going to do? Obviously, if I'm the Buccaneers, Jameis Winston has nothing owed to him. There isn't Jameis is here. He's our starter now. Ryan Fitzpatrick has to piss this away. He's earned the right to be the guy. So let's see what he does with it. I'm anxious to see because I think I already know how this movie ends. I've already told you, you're not going to the playoffs this year. Any team with Ryan Fitzpatrick, it's in the NFL bylaws. Okay? Chapter 4, Article 9, Section 4. It's in the bylaws. No team with Fitty at quarterback shall be a playoff participant is how I believe it is read. That being said, let's get to your comments. This was a fun game. All righty, let's get to the comments. All right. All the way to the top we go. This is as far top I go. So Atlas says 10 things not bouncing our way and the refs to stop us. This team is going places this year. Rodney Ray says over under on. Oh, so you tried to play me tonight, Rodney Ray. Boom. Right in your eye, boy. Got here not too long after the game was done. Take that and put it in your pipe and smoke it. JP says the penalty on special teams cost the Bucs that D-Jack's touchdown. That was brutal, and it was so unnecessary. I hate when guys on special teams do the unnecessary. He didn't have to do that. It wasn't anything integral to the success of the play. You didn't have to do it. So don't. I don't understand. Anyway, JP says, does Jameis get his job back now? No, he doesn't. This game, if the first half had continued into the second, maybe there's a discussion to be had. But the way that Ryan Fitzpatrick battled back in the second half and showed why he was fitty, I think it's pretty safe to say that he, at least for another week, has kept Jameis at bay. We'll see how it continues to go next week. Captain Spartan says, my Steelers just had to get my heart pumping. Yeah, they made it close, man. Made it a lot tougher on you. You thought you were going to kick back, relax, and enjoy the rest of the game at halftime, and the Buccaneers and your Steelers had other plans in the second half. JP says, if the Steelers lost this game, Tomlin would have probably been, no, he wouldn't have been fired. You know, JP, you come with a lot of extremes, bruh. They're not firing Mike Tomlin. The man has never had a losing season in Pittsburgh. I'm not going to fire Mike Tomlin after 3 games, bruh. It's not happening. Cajun Red says, what happened to Ryan Smith? I don't know. That's a good question to ask the Buccaneers fans. They're here. Reese says, Dirk Cutter just gave them the goddamn game. I don't care about field position. They march down the field anyway. No, he did the right thing. You wanted him to go for it on that 4th down? Are you crazy? Not with 2 timeouts and a 2-minute warning. You put your defense on the field and you tell them they're going to run the football twice and throw it on 3rd down. Go get us a stop. You can't do that. You don't deserve. They had 8 rushing yards going into the final 2 possessions of the game. If you can't stop them from running the football, then you don't deserve to win. And you couldn't stop them from running the football. Hence, you didn't deserve to win. Simple as that. JP says, Pete Morelli's crew was reffing this game, so I knew there were going to be flags galore. There are certain officials and their crew that, you know, when you see those boys, you know what time it is. There were a couple of crews, you know, with like Jeff Triplett's crew. You knew some crazy shit was going to go down. Pete Morelli and his crew seemed to be notorious for throwing a bunch of flags. It just is what it is, you know. Rodney Ray says, Bucs punting was really bad. It was, but, you know, it is what it is. You know, you could say the same thing about the Steelers. You know, they had 1 punt down inside the 5-yard line. The one that was called back due to a penalty on Darius Hayward-Bay. They had another one that was down inside the 5, but then he had the line drive to Deshaun Jackson that almost changed the game. All of that goodwill that he had done would have been erased by a line drive punt that would have went back for about 80 yards and a touch. So it can go either way, man. Reese says, it's not Chris Conte's fault, Lou. It's Mike Smith's. That's that no one else was there. It's amazing how you always blame Mike Smith for something, man. Mike Smith had nothing to do with that man getting the draw stiff-armed out of him. That man got left at about the 35, 40-yard line on the ground screaming, Giants, Giants, win, win, win. What was it? It was Cowboys, Cowboys, win, win, win. Giants, Giants, help us, God. How do you get stiff-armed like that? That's so disrespectful. I would have got hurt too, man. JP says, where the hell is Vernon Hargreaves III? I had him as my breakout candidate for the year. I think he got injured again. There's a reason why the Buccaneers drafted like 9 defensive backs this year. Part of the reason was they haven't been all that impressed with VH3. Part of the reason is he hasn't been able to stay healthy. Part of the reason is they don't have enough defensive backs. The fact that Brent Grimes is 819 years old and he's still out there starting for them is a problem. Simple as that. Isaac Schnook says, if there's no penalty on the punt return for a TD from Djax, I think Tampa would have won. That's very, very plausible. I don't disagree with that. That's a big play in the game. They had all of the momentum in the world at that point in the game, and they may have been able to pull it off. The Steelers were reeling. That punt return would have been the potential knockout blow. It definitely would have sent the Steelers to the canvas. They were on the ropes. The referee was kind of standing there looking like he wanted to jump in, and that punt return would have definitely sent the Steelers down to the canvas. Would they have gotten back up, or would they have stayed down for the 10 count and the fight was over? I can't answer that. But that would have definitely put them down. For the count, I don't know. There was a lot of time still left in the game. Reese says, I don't care what anyone says. I am proud of my team. People can talk all the shit they want. I am proud. That's good. Be proud, but you lost. But be proud. There's nothing to be ashamed of when your team gives it everything they've got and they just fall short. There's nothing wrong with that. But you lost. And again, you can be proud, but don't be content. That's loser talk. Okay? That's loser talk. When you start counting moral victories in the left-hand column, because moral victories don't actually count for victories, in case you didn't know. So let me enlighten you. Moral victories don't count as actual victories. They're moral for a reason. They're internal. But you don't actually get credit for that. So don't start getting excited about almost winning. There's nothing to take from almost winning. You lost. As a Redskin fan, I can tell you about almost winning. It sucks. Because there's winning and there's losing. Anything in between is garbage. It's hearsay. It's gray area. And in this sport, you either win or you lose. Or you can tie, I guess. Right? We've seen, 2 of those already this year. So I take that back. You either want to win or you don't want to win. And the Buccaneers didn't want to win tonight. Neither did the Steelers at times with 12 penalties. But they didn't turn it over like you did. You can overcome penalties in this league. We see teams do it all the time. What you can't overcome generally is turnovers. You had 4 of them. That's a death sentence. Unless you're going to get 3 or 4 back yourself, then you got a fighting shot. But when you turn it over 4 times, probably going to make your bed and have to lay in it. Reese says, Djax would still have scored if Isaiah Johnson didn't hold. That's my point. It wasn't necessary. He didn't need to do it. It didn't impact the play. So don't do it. Damn it, Isaiah. Young Mello says, there is no way the AFC North will be better than the NFC South. Bank on it, bruh. Bank on it. Bank on it. I'm telling you right now. I will take the top 2 teams in that division, put them up against the top 2 teams in your division. I'm telling you right now. What's the records? Saints are 2-1, barely. Falcons are 1-2. Panthers are 2-1. Bucs are 2-1. I guarantee you, we revisit this conversation in 4 weeks. And 3 of those 2-1 teams that we're talking about, you got 3 2-1 teams, 1 1-2 team. 2 of those 2-1 teams are going to be at or below 500. Mark my words. Meanwhile, the Bengals and the Ravens are still going to be playing top-notch football. You'll see. Reese says, JPP is a beast, Lou. You see him out there? I saw him. I saw a really quality football player hustling his ass off. That's good to see. I didn't see dominant, beating a man off the edge, off the snap. I didn't see that. But I saw a guy that was where he was supposed to be, when he was supposed to be there, and constantly making life tough on Ben Roethlisberger when he tried to escape the pocket. That's what I saw. But I didn't see a guy getting Ben while he was in the pocket. That's what I want to see from a pass rusher. Because if you're not getting him then you're a try-hard guy. Then you're an effort sack guy. Those are plentiful around the league. Those effort sack guys. You can find a guy that can get you effort and get you 8 sacks in any given season. Hell, my best pass rusher is an effort sack guy. He'll get us 10, 11, 12 and a half in any given year. But only 4 of them are true legit. Damn, he just beat the hell out of that guy off the snap sacks. The rest of them are, he was unblocked, on bootleg, quarterback turns around and what? Voila, he's in his face, easy sack. Or, yep, he hustled, quarterback held on it way too long, and he was able to run around the pocket, loop around, and run his way into a sack. Those are cute, and they count, but those aren't the ones I'm necessarily looking for. I have high standards when it comes to pass rushers, just so you know. I'm not trying to knock JPP. But in this league, the Khalil Macks of the world, the Von Millers of the world, those guys get results. Those guys change games. They're game changers. You don't have a game changer on your football team as a pass rusher. But then again, most teams don't. 90% of the league doesn't have a game-changing pass rusher. There may only be about 6 or 7 teams. The Vikings, the Rams, the Broncos, obviously the Bears. There aren't many out there. When Justin Houston is right, the Chiefs, but the Cowboys, the Cardinals, but there aren't many. I might have just named all of them in the league just now. And I may have forgotten a guy or two out there, but generally speaking, those are the guys that change the game. You don't have one. But then again, most teams in the league, I'd say they may be 8 teams with one of those. So a fourth of the league, 75% of the league doesn't have a game-changing pass rusher. And you're in the 75%, along with me and most other fans out there. Reed, you don't have to apologize for losing your cool, bruh. That's why we here. This is what we do. This is where you come to vent and release that anger and that frustration. Don't have it be pent up. Release it. That's why I told you, this is a good therapy for me. When my team does something stupid, me coming up here and venting feels so good. I get it out. It doesn't stay in. I don't project it onto others. I put it where it belongs. And then I move on. And that's what you're doing right now. That's what you're supposed to do. Don't apologize for that. You wanted your team to win tonight. You were excited. You were on the Fitzmagic train. You didn't want that ride to stop tonight. I told you, if you want me to jump on and give you the credit that you were looking for after the first 2 weeks. I said, here's your platform. It's not going to get any better than this. Week 3, at home, Steelers, they're reeling, deliver the knockout blow, and we'll have something to talk about. And you couldn't do it. Reese says, I feel good about this season. This was the teeth of our schedule. It eases up a bit from here. So you say. So you say. The minute you start counting wins and losses down the schedule is when you start losing football games. Ask the Minnesota Vikings. Last week's game against Buffalo, supposed to be an easy one, right? Right? Wrong. Okay? The minute you start talking about schedules easing up, you don't know, maybe 3 or 4 teams right now you can say with any definitive nature they're bad football teams. They're about 3 or 4 right now. They usually, okay, that's a bad football team. I think the Texans are a bad football team. The Cardinals are a bad football team. The Raiders, they're not as bad as they appear to be, but they don't know how to win football games. For as many veterans as they have, they don't know how to win. The Bills, although they had a great showing, still a bad football team. So it's hard to count dubs right now. It's hard to start looking at the schedule, talking about things easing up. Some teams will get better as the year progresses. I talk about Arizona being bad. They made the announcement today that they're going with the rookie Josh Rosen. He could easily turn shit around for them. And all of a sudden, by the time you get to them 6 weeks from now, not the same Arizona team everybody was wiping the floor up with the first 3 weeks of the season. Shit changes. And by the time you get to Arizona, totally different team, totally different confidence, not the same team. So, I hear you saying this was the teeth of your schedule. I understand. But this is the NFL. It's a week-to-week league. Shit changes. It's a fluid situation every single week. Again, ask the Minnesota Vikings. They can tell you firsthand. Shit is fluid, man. You think you know, you have no idea. JP says, do you think the passing of Art Rooney had something to do with the Steelers' struggles? He meant so much to that franchise, so maybe the team's still hurting and lost their concentration. Nah, I don't think that had anything to do with what's going on, but he was a very influential part of that organization, obviously, but I don't think that had anything to do with what's going on with the Steelers right now. Captain Spartan says, something that is flying under the radar is how good Ryan Switzer and James Washington are. We don't have to target A.B. 15 times anymore, which is part of the problem because A.B. is so used to getting 15 targets a game. Now that the ball can be spread around, he's starting to get in his feelings. Now you're starting to see him get frustrated because he realizes they don't need me as much as they once did, which is a good problem to have. And you're right. Switzer has come over and been a breath of fresh air in the slot. Juju is emerging as a star. James Washington, I told you he's a quality wide receiver. I told you that when you drafted him. He was better than people was giving him credit for. And then you look at, of course, Antonio Brown, and you're saying to yourself, you got a receiver group now that can go a legit 4 deep. Legit 4 deep. And so what the Steelers have to do, it's never been a question of offense. That's not the question. The question is, can you outscore the opponent because your defense probably isn't very good? That's the question. Your defense isn't good enough. Can you outscore the opponent? Next week, you're going to go up against a different type of Ravens football team. Because the Ravens are now capable of scoring 33 points. In the past, if they scored 33, they needed 6 turnovers to do it. They needed 4 turnovers to do it. And one of those turnovers needed to go to the crib. Now, they can just line up and go mano and mano and say, hey, I got receivers for days. I got tight ends for days. I got backs that I like. I can score. So, they can play a little bit of defense and they can score now. It's a different game now. We'll see what happens next week. That's going to be an intriguing game on Sunday Night Football. Atlas says, Steelers are falling apart, and it's the end of the Patriots era. It's an exciting time to be watching football. I don't agree with that. The Steelers may be falling apart, but I don't think it's the end of the Patriot era quite yet. When will you guys learn? How many times have you done that with the B&B winning factory? Anyway, we had that discussion last night. I'm not going to do that again tonight. And I appreciate you accepting my apology on the behalf of Buck fans, Atlas. Thank you. L.A.B says, man, what a messed up start to the year. My pick'ems are screwed up. My team didn't show up at home. Fitzmagic happened. Is Fitzmagic done for the year, or do you think they'll leave wins? I'm guessing he means they'll put Jameis in. Or will they continue with Fitzpatrick? They're going to – Fitty has earned the right to continue to start until otherwise notified. See, we got 13 minutes left. Until otherwise notified. So until he does something or this team starts to feel like he's regressing and they don't feel like he gives them the best chance to win, he's the starter. They go to Chicago next week. They beat the Bears 31-20, and he's 21 of 34 for 271 and 2 touchdowns and an interception, and they win. He's going to continue to start. So, Reese says, not a day in my life have I ever feared the Carolina Panthers, not once. Nor should you, but just know that without Cam Newton being injured, you can't beat them. That's a fact. With Cam Newton in the lineup, you don't stand a chance versus Carolina. That's just how it goes. When's the last time you beat the Panthers without Cam Newton being injured? That's what I want to know. With Cam Newton in the lineup, when's the last time you beat the... And it could have been last year, for all I know. But if memory serves me correct, I don't know if you've ever beaten Cam Newton. The Buccaneers have beaten Cam Newton as Panthers quarterback. Maybe his rookie season. I mean, you got to go pretty far back, I think. But like I said, you can count on him being injured against the Bucs once a year. For a stretch there, it seemed like every year. But anyway. Reese says, first bad game I've ever seen from Chris Godwin. He made up for it late, though. Yeah, had a nice catch in the end zone. Like I said, Bucs are extremely deep on the offensive side of football. It's a wealth and abundance of riches. It's ridiculous, all of the guys that they could go to. And you saw it tonight. You know, they spread it around. You know, it was Godwin. It was Mikey. It was Humphreys. It was OJ. It was Brait. Everybody got a little piece of the action tonight. FBG Tony says, should Tampa try to grab L.B? No. For what? You just drafted a running back in the second round. Now, if you don't believe in him and you don't think he's going to be any good, you still don't do that. Because you still got, remember, it's not about just trading for him. You have to pay him as well. Similar to the situation with the Bears and Khalil Mack. Not only do you have to trade for them, so you have to give up. And the Steelers, if the Steelers are to trade him, which I think is imminent, they're looking for a first-round pick. They're not looking for a second or a third. They want a first-round pick, and then you have to then turn around and give the man the contract that he's looking for. Now, if you're like the Bears, where you've got a young quarterback in his second year of a 5-year deal, you can afford to pay a guy like Khalil Mack or L.B. Like the Jets would be the perfect landing destination for L.B. Why? They've got a rookie quarterback. They're not going to have to invest a bunch of money in the quarterback position anytime soon. That's when you can afford to pay everybody else. But the minute that quarterback contract is on the horizon, you got to start shedding cap space. The Jets are in a great spot. They got a bunch of cap space. They spent some of it this offseason on Tremaine Johnson and Spencer Long and some of the other guys that they acquired. They still got cap space, and they don't have to pay a quarterback for the foreseeable future. And oh, by the way, they finessed the hell out of the New Orleans Saints for a third-round pick for Teddy. So they got draft capital. That'd be the team that I'd look out for. But we'll see. Anyway. Atlas says, it's all Mike Smith's fault for the Bucs D. I swear, he needs to go, not now, like right now. I get it. I understand. I've been there before with a defensive coordinator that I thought was worthless. So I get it. Reese says, Mike Smith, so bring me back my comments. Let's see. Damn, where did that go? Whoa, here we go. Reese says, Mike Smith sucks. Dirk Cutter doesn't have the damn spine to release him, though. Look, coaching staffs are fraternities. You know this already. If you've been in the game long enough, then you know that it's a good old boys club. When I get hired, I'm bringing all my boys on the staff. That's just the way it goes. And that's how you stay employed in this league. You're loyal to guys to a fault sometimes. Now, again, if your job's on the line and they tell you, hey, either you get rid of this guy or you got to go, then, you know, as in the case of Tennessee, their coach fell on the sword. He said, look, I'm not getting rid of any of my guys, and if I got to go, then I'll go. But I'm not firing any of my guys. So they went to the playoffs, and they got a new coach because he refused to fire one of his coaches. Cool. Some dudes are willing to fall on the sword because guess what? When time comes back around for one of those other coaches to be a head coach or be in a position of power, guess who they're going to think of? The guy that made sure that I had a job. And that's how it goes. So, yeah, if Mike Smith were ever to get another head coaching job, which seems really, really out of the sorts right now. It seems out of the ordinary. It doesn't seem like something that would happen. And it seems out of the question right now. But if he were ever to get a head coaching job down the road and Dirk Cutter was looking for work, guess what? He'd always remember the gratitude shown to him by Dirk Cutter. That's his guy, and he made sure he'd have a job. That's how it goes. Rodney Ray says, why do I keep hearing people saying Jameis to the 49ers? I doubt it. Look, Jameis is on the last year of his deal. So Jameis could end up somewhere. It's not going to be San Francisco. They just paid Jimmy G a boatload of money. It's not happening. So even though the 49ers feel good about where they are and they think they can win this year, and it's really unfortunate, they're not going to trade capital, real, tangible capital for a one-year rental. They've got a lot invested in Jimmy G. He'll be back next year ready to rock and roll. Well, we've seen guys tear their ACL, come back the next year, a la Tom Brady, a la Carson Wentz, and be just fine, okay? They're not going to do anything irrational. So if Jameis ends up somewhere else, it won't be San Francisco. Black Al B says, don't hit him with the Anita. Too late, I already did. At least one person knew what the hell was going on there. Angry Birds of Chaos says, Chiefs and Bucs exceeding expectations. Steelers, Patriots are underperforming, and my God, Texans are awful. Yeah, I watched that game today, the Texans game with the Giants, because I couldn't wrap my brain around the same Giants team that I saw incapable of moving the football versus the Cowboys the week prior. They had 4 first-half possessions and scored on every single one of them versus the Texans. And then I said, okay, well, you may struggle on the defensive side of the football, but what's going on the offensive side? And then I saw them turning it over and can't get out of their own way. They're a mess. It's time for Bill O'Brien to go. It's time for him to go. Billy O's got to go. It's time for him to go. J. Cam Man says, Fitz always finds a way not to get the job done at the end. That last drive by the Bucs was unfortunate, he says. Reese says, man, just when I thought I've seen Deshaun Jackson at his fastest, I saw that punt return. He was flying. Look, the dude will always be fast. He's one of those guys that he'll be 50 and still be able to run a 4.4. Similar to Darrell Green, who at one point was the NFL's fastest man. And even when he retired, and he retired at around the age of 40, the man was still running a 4.4. And then they asked him 10 years after he retired, and he was like, yeah, I probably could still run a 4.4 right now. Like, the dude is always going to be fast. He's just one of those type of athletes. We got 4 minutes left, so I'm going to start picking out conversations and trying to get some good comments before we go. JP says, I noticed Darius Hayward-Bay nearly cost the Steelers when he shouted at those two magical words to the ref that aren't repeatable around youth ears. He was upset. Can't have it at that moment, but the part of the field that they were at, it didn't hurt him as much. Had he committed that same infraction and they were at, let's say, the 35, and it pushed them back to the 20, and they had to punt, the punter was literally standing at his own 4, yeah, now I got a problem with that penalty. But because they were in Bucs territory, that penalty kind of pushed them back, gave the punter a little bit more space. He still kicked it. It hit down at about the 5. And because they were so afraid of Deshaun Jackson, they ran to him instead of the ball. And so it went into the end zone. So it didn't hurt him as much as it could have. But you got to be careful with those situations, for sure. Dana Elmore says, I told you, Lou, all we need was 1 win, and we get 2 wins with 50-50. Here comes my QB, Jameis Winston. Hashtag big country. We'll see. I don't think they're gonna put your boy in. I don't think. At first, to me, that was an empty threat when they said, Jameis isn't guaranteed. I laughed. Very funny. Jameis not getting his job back when he's ready. Are you crazy? What are you lying for? That's how I felt. And then Ryan Fitzpatrick proceeded to be the first quarterback in NFL history to have 3 straight 400-yard passing games to start the season. Okay, that changes things. Oh, by the way, every game wasn't accompanied with interceptions. He was pretty much clean. So, yeah, shit has changed. No, Ricky. Chris Boswell is one of the most accurate kickers in the league right now. He's not getting released. He had a rough night, but he's not getting released because of tonight. Reese says, we're a quality head coach away from stardom. I guess. I don't know about that. Got a lot more that you need other than a head coach, but I can tell you this much. A quality head coach goes a long way, man. A long way. Hey, no doubt, Reed, man. That's what I'm here for, man. That's what I try to provide for some of you out there. Appreciate you as well, my man. Reed says, congrats to Tony Dungy. He said, best coach the Bucs ever had. I concur. I also loved John McKay, but yes, I agree with you as well. Ree said, what's going on, Reeby? Hey, look, if you at work, I don't want any problems. I've already told you guys this. Don't get in any trouble at work behind trying to watch the stream. hashtag Buck Nation says, did my D want to tackle anybody out there? We will bounce back big next week in Chicago. That's a big game. That's a huge game because there's a huge difference between being 3-1 and 2-2. Especially after starting the season off 2-0. Huge difference between 3-1 and 2-1 and 2-2. So we're gonna see. All right, guys. I've hit my hour limit. This was a fun one. This was a really good game. Bucs had opportunities after a rough first half that saw them fall behind by 20, 30-10. It's a hell of a game. Hell of a comeback. And they had opportunities. They had chances late in this game. But as a young team that is still trying to figure out how to win close games, they didn't get it done. And we've seen this team struggle in certain situations. And they had a chance tonight. But they could have easily folded the tent, and they didn't. So I think this Bucs team may be different. I'm still not sold. Why? Fitty's at quarterback. So, in any event, big one for the Steelers. They had to have it. They needed the momentum going into a huge showdown in the division. The best family I don't know. Steelers, Bengals has been some top-notch quality AFC North family business of late. But it doesn't get any more traditional than in the AFC North, that is, than Steelers-Ravens AFC North family business. If those two teams said they ain't did it, then they ain't did it. But if they did, well, that's family business. But they get the win. One's across the board for the Steelers after this contest. Meanwhile, the Bucs fall for the first time in 2018 and fall to 2-1 on the season with the 30-27 loss at home to the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm your man, Louie T, signing off. Remember, like the video, share the video, subscribe to the Louie T Network if you haven't already done so. Be on the lookout for lockdown coverage for all of the breakdowns for week number 3 in the National Football League. That should be coming out sometime tomorrow. I'm finishing up the last game, Bears at Cardinals, and then I'll be able to put that pod out for your consumption. Be on the lookout for the Louie T Network podcast later on in the week. And so, for all of you out there, I'm your man, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Remember, we're changing the game one live feed at a time. I will see you guys next time. Have a good one.